Hello and welcome to part 2 of this lecture series for this week. We're now going to talk about expectations. So consumer expectations are pre-purchase beliefs about service provision that acts as a standard or a reference point for judging post-purchase performance. So expectations play a crucial role in framing satisfaction of evaluations. In fact, understanding what consumers expect is the starting point for firms wishing to manage the satisfaction process. So it's crucial. We've talked before about the importance of satisfaction and the importance of customer loyalty. Now, to understand those things, we talk about disconfirmation model. It all starts with the customer's pre-existing expectations. Now, a lot of that is we can't control, so it's influenced by the things that we do, such as what we say to them through marketing communications and our positioning in the marketplace, our brand values, stuff like that. Also, what our customers say, so we have a little bit of influence over that. But there's a lot of other things going on in their heads which are beyond our control and beyond what we know as well. So expectations are the foundation and standard on which subsequent attribute performance is assessed. So if their expectations are unreasonable, no matter what happens throughout that process, you could deliver the best service ever. If their expectations are so far out that it's unreasonable, you're never going to be able to get customer satisfaction. On the other hand, if their expectations are extremely low, which is unlikely, then if you do not provide a good service, they're still going to be happy. But we really want to be thinking about managing customer expectations from the beginning so that they can align with what's actually going to happen, like reality, as much as possible. And there's ways that we can do that, right? Now, forming expectations. So customers form their expectations from past experience with a particular brand or service category through word of mouth and variations, forms of advertising, promotion from general attitude towards the brand, which I kind of just mentioned. Now, to manage these, customer expectations are dynamic and shift during extended consumption experiences, which is extremely important for things such as in the construction industry when you build a house. Their expectations at the beginning when they sign the contract are going to be very different than their expectations at the end when they hand over and sell keys, right? That's one quite dramatic example because it goes for a long time, and constructing houses, like people's where they're going to live, is very emotional service provision, right? But there's other things as well, such as banks. Like if you get a mortgage with a bank, most people don't have strong expectations of their bank or, like strong emotions towards their bank. But you can imagine if you get a mortgage that for 30 years, what you expect of your bank at, when you're just say 25 and sign your bank loan to when you're like 20 years later and finish your final payment, there's going to be, over those 20 years, I think it's going to change a lot, right? So, and it's important for us to understand that as marketing people then about the dynamic nature of customer expectations and emotions, because as they change, we need to be able to account and cater for that, right? So over-promising and under-delivering will result in dissatisfaction. This is something you see a lot. People just, they want to win work, so they over-promise, right? But they're really shooting themselves in the foot and spiral into failure because if you over-promise something that you can't deliver, they're going to be dissatisfied. So the work that you're getting is going to be dissatisfied customers. So they're not going to want to come back, and they're going to tell other people not to come back. So really, you think that you're trying to get a advance in business, but what ends up happening is you're just shooting yourself in the foot and terminating your future success in business. Really, it's just so limiting. Under-promising can exceed expectations. So you think, well, why not just lower the expectations of my customers? Therefore, they'll, just be happy with everything. And that kind of makes sense in a way. But that means you're not going to be competitive in the marketplace either. Because if everyone says, oh, we're at level 3, and you go, we're at level 2, they're going to go, well, why would I go to a level 2 business when I can just go to a level 3 business? It's better value, right? So in competitive marketplaces, you can't under-promise either. It's much better to try and communicate in a way, and don't think about what you're going to say, think about what they're going to hear and how they're going to perceive it, right? So a way that they can understand what happens in your business, like their expectations, align with the service that you provide as much as possible. And those expectations then should be set relative to the positioning of your business. So if you're positioned as a high quality but expensive, then set those expectations. If you're set as like innovative and fun, then set those expectations. So that way, if you can align their expectations with the positioning in the marketplace, things are going to be so much smoother for you. All right, customers expect. I've got a typo in there. Customers expect the service to be delivered as promised. In new or complex service experience, customers adjust their service quality. And we talked about construction. That's a long one, but it's also a complex service as well. So think about other services that you get that might be extremely complex or simple. So if, getting a coffee is a rather simple service, so your expectations won't really adjust and fluctuate. Getting financial advice is quite complex, and we don't know what's happening, we don't know what they're doing, it's very intangible, so then our expectations are going to be a lot more dynamic through those processes. So services that are complex and that we don't understand are going to impact our expectations, and our expectations are going to be more dynamic. Alright, and let's look about the impact on culture and customer expectations. So customers low on the power distance, and remember we talked about Hofstede's cultural dimensions. The power distance is how you see some people are more important. So in cultures, some people will see their political leaders as very powerful and very far away from them, like very distant. Whereas in Australia, we have very low power distance, and so like our politicians, you just be like, "Hey mate, how you going?" Like it's very casual. And the same with like your boss. Like, how do you view your boss? As someone that's really high and far away, or someone that's close and friendly towards you? So, and that's set by culture, right? National culture. So, consumers on low power distance and had higher overall expectations of service, but had especially high expectations for responsive and reliable service. Western individualistic consumers had high overall service expectations with emphasis on the service provided, demonstrating high empathy and assurance. And really, it's because we're so individualistic, it's about us then, rather than the community and our family and our society in general, right? Consumers high on the uncertainty avoidance dimension had very high overall service expectations on both processes and outcomes. All right, so that's linking in customer expectations with cultural dimensions. All right, let's look at the zone of indifference there. And this is quite interesting research because it highlights the fact that although we talk about customers that are satisfied or dissatisfied, there is this whole section in the middle where customers just do not care. All right, and if we work at the business, we get paid for it, we spend all our time thinking about it, or our work time thinking about it, so therefore it means a lot to us, right? But sometimes our customers just do not care. It's there, it's easy, it's convenient, and we'd like them to care, but they don't, so they're just indifferent, right? So the zone of difference is defined as the difference between customers' desired and just adequate expectations, so where they want it to be and the minimum. According to the assimilation contrast theory, where service performance is seen by the customers as being within their zone of indifference, differences between expectations and performance will be assimilated and viewed favourably. That is, the customer will adjust their perceptions of performance to their expectations, or adjust their expectations to make them more in line with reality. And we talked about that before, how customers adjust their expectations. So their expectations are dynamic as well, right? So if you get customer delight, yep, cool, very happy, but then they're going to lift their expectations as well. Now here we have the illustrated, this concept of indifference. So if their expectations are low on this dimension, or if they're high on the other side of the dimension here, right? Now, some customers are going to be very low, some customers are going to be very high, but there's going to be this area where they don't care. So if as long as between this service was adequate, or the service met the desired, it's just business as normal. They don't really care. If the service is way higher than what they expected, they're going to be delighted. If it's way lower than what they expected, they're going to be dissatisfied or angry and disrupt the business. Like actively go against the business. So this is quite important from a business perspective, because often we think in contrast: is it hot or is it cold? Is it high? Is it low? Are the customers satisfied or are they dissatisfied? And I think we've got to get to the understanding that a lot of the time our customers just might be in the zone of tolerance. They're just indifferent, right? And it's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't want to go on too much about that, but I think I've made the point as clear as I can in the time we've got available. So the zone of indifference. So first time service, so the outcome going to be a lot higher. The process is going to be a bit lower in there. And this is for the zone of indifference for first-time service recovery situations. So the first time is obviously the first time they come into contact. Service recovery situations is when they've experienced the service, but think something's gone wrong. There's been service failure, so hasn't met their expectations. Service quality's gone wrong. We'll look at dimensions of that coming up. And then how that's going to impact it, right? So their expectations then are going to be a lot higher than the second time round. And that's for so the outcome is like the final result of the service. So just say if I go to get my my teeth done at the dentist, right? The outcome will be then my teeth are all fixed, right? But the process is what was that like? Was it an enjoyable process? All those things affect satisfaction as well. So in a service recovery situation, it's going to be a lot higher. And you can actually see these indifference boxes are actually smaller than as well, so there's less tolerance. So I'm going to go back a slide. So the zone of tolerance, not only has it shifted up the scale, it's actually compressed in size as well. Now we've got this cool idea about the service recovery paradox in there. This would sort of be the first time. So there's really three of them in there. We've got the first time service. This kind of emphasises the importance of service recovery. But there's really first time service, but then there's ongoing or repeat service as well, which is going to be adjusted. But then when something goes wrong, it's going to be critically more important in how we recover that. If we do recover that, we get this thing which I just mentioned, the service recovery paradox. If we can get it above their zone of indifference, then it's actually going to be positive in the long run too. So you'd expect them to be more unsatisfied or dissatisfied, but if we can get above that smash box or above that indifference box in there, in the long run they're actually going to be more satisfied than what they were to start with. So because something's gone wrong, so although their zone of indifference is narrowed and shifted higher, if we can deliver on that, then they go, yeah, when things do go wrong, this organisation, this service business is able to recover them, which is going to reinstall their trust in the business and their confidence as well. So that's going to have positive impacts in the long run. Right, let's have a look now. So when performance fails above or below the zone of indifference, the contrast in variation will likely make it appear even larger than it really is. So poor performance, that is when it falls below the adequate level, is likely to be exaggerated, and the results are considerable dissatisfaction, which is the service recovery. So customers differ in their tolerance to deviations from expected performance. Various situational factors, service attributes or first time versus service recovery situations also have an impact on the size of the tolerance or indifference zone. So what that's saying is those factors impact where this, I keep calling it a smash box, but it's basically that zone of indifference in there. Alright, let's talk about service quality and productivity now. So quality and productivity are parallel paths, which makes sense. We're talking about productivity as in like how productive our staff are in actually producing the service. So sometimes referred to as two sides of the same coin, or creating value for both customers and companies respectively. In broad terms, quality focuses on the benefits side of the equation and productivity focuses on the cost side. So while the quality is the benefits to the customer, productivity is reduces costs to them. So and reduces cost to us as a business, which reduces costs to the consumers as well. Also allows us, because of reduction in costs, allows us to invest more into our customer relationships as well, which is where we make the money. So the primary goal of productivity improvement is to reduce the financial costs of the firm, but one route to achieving this goal is to squeeze out wasted time and speed up service processes, which may also benefit customers. Now think of it, if you go to just say Service Tasmania, I'm going to use I know it's a government business enterprise, but if you go to Service Tasmania, it's run by the government, but the quicker it takes, so the more productive those Service Tas employees are, right, it's cheaper for Service Tas to provide those services then, but for us as consumers like citizens, it's actually better for us too, because we don't have to wait as long. So that's one example. I use Service Tasmania because a lot of us have experienced having to wait in line there, and it's exceptionally frustrating. But it's the same with, let's use a completely commercial one such as McDonald's, right? So the better the productivity of McDonald's, so the quicker they can get their customers through the service process, the better it is for us as consumers as well, because part of the value proposition of McDonald's is convenience, which is reduction in time, right? So productivity refers to the ratio of outputs to inputs. Efficiency involves comparison to standard which is usually time-based, such as how long it takes for an employee to perform a particular task relative to a predefined standard. Remember our service blueprints, when we've mapped out our service design, we're designing stuff, we tried to put the times in there. Some service firms, it's easier to put the times in there, some there's more variation in there, but that's one way to evaluate our efficiency in there. And the more you do it, the better and more refined you can get those. And this is one way then to measure our productivity against our service processes. Right, here we have a, I really like this model here. It's really, so it sort of answers the question, when does improving service reliability become economical? Now, I've sort of espoused the benefits of reliable service and service quality, right? So you go to well, if it's so good, why don't we just spend, a bucket load of money, like heaps and heaps of money at being really, really, really good. But there's going to be a point, like with everything in life, there's a law of diminishing returns kicks in. So for extra dollar you spend improving the service quality doesn't mean that you're going to get $1 back. So if your service quality at the beginning is quite poor, spending $1 to improve your service is going to result in multiple dollars back, so $3, $4 back. So you go, well, let's keep doing it, right? So every marginal increase in improving service is going to deliver more of an increase, marginal increase in, so for extra benefits going to come back is even better, all right? But there's going to get a point there where the more we spend, the less we get back. So, that's what this model here shows. So a small cost at this part of the model is going to end up with a large improvement. So if we're at A and we go, well, our business isn't running very well, our service reliability isn't actually very good. So we're going to invest some money into our service design. That small cost is going to result in a big improvement of reliability, right? But then as we continue to spend more, we're going to it's going to get low. So really we want to satisfy target customers through service delivery as planned. That point there, the optimal point of reliability, the cost of failure over service recovery, and the satisfy target customers for service recovery. So in here, you go, well, where's that optimal point going to be? They've got it in there, but I'm reckoning it'd be back here somewhere. So you got the key thing about this model is you realise that you're not going to be able to satisfy every single customer, right? And a lot of businesses do expect that. You think, well, I'm in business, I want to keep all my customers happy all the time. And I've been in that situation. It's quite painful because you've got customers that are dissatisfied for whatever reasons. Usually it's about their expectations have been unreasonable to start with, either whether it's your fault or just, from their own things going on in their own head. But if we're going to target, now I'm not sure what percentage that's going to be, just say it's 90% at that end there, you need to go, well, the rest of it we're going to manage through service recovery processes. And then you go, well, the optimal point is going to be down here somewhere. So if you're not prepared to spend more on service improvement to get that small return back, which as a rational decision, a rational business person would, you'd go, well, then we need to have those service recovery processes in place to account for that. So it kind of emphasises the importance of you can't just spend more money to get more back. There is a point where that doesn't work anymore, and to manage that with service recovery. So assumption, customers are equally or even more satisfied with the service recovery than with service that is delivered as planned. And that's a pretty big assumption, but if you've got good service recovery, it actually holds true too. And there's a bucket load of research on that. And I find it absolutely fascinating about how customers go through those emotions and those whole range of psychological impacts throughout that service recovery process. All right, now improving service productivity. So carefully control costs at every step of the process, reduce waste of materials and labour, match productive capacity with market demand, and we've talked about that. A lot of businesses go, well, this is our capacity. This is where demand is. Demand fluctuates, but we're not going to do anything with our capacity, which is just stupid. So think about what's happening with your demand, how you can control that. What can you do to adjust productive capacity? And there's a bucket load of things that we've done. We've had a whole chapter on that. It's extremely important, but it's going to link back to this productivity then, right? So provide employees with equipment and databases that enable them to work faster and a higher level of quality, which is just pure management stuff. Train employees how to work more productively, be more productive. Broaden the array of tasks that service workers can perform, so cross-skilling excellent idea for increasing productive capacity. Install expert systems that allow paraprofessionals to take on work previously performed by more experienced individuals earning higher salaries. This is a really good idea. So if you've got, I'm just going to go to like professionals. So if you've got in an industry where you've got engineers, you need to have a qualified engineer to sign off things, right? But it doesn't mean that you can give, like if you, as you get busy, start giving your engineers, these para-engineers, right? So these working under the engineer, like these technical engineers, you couldn't really call them certified engineers, but they work with them. And then the certified engineers still signing everything off, but basically they've got more personnel to help them do their manual tasks, right? Well, not their manual tasks, but their task intensive. I'm trying not to use the word labour because that implies physical labour, but you know what I mean, like the mental labour part of it. So that's a good idea there too. And that comes down to designing your organisation, the structure of your organisation to match your strategy, organisational strategy. So customer-driven approaches to service productivity, change the time of customer demand. We can do that through price, we can do that through advertising, we can do that through incentives, and usually a lot of it can just happen through knowledge, customer learning and knowledge too, because like the way that we store services is by making our customers wait. Customers don't like that. So if you can tell your key customers when the best time for them to come and the best time for you to come in, there's mutual benefits to receive there. Encourage the use of lower cost service delivery and self-service. I mean, we're always looking for that. And ask customers to use third parties such as specialist intermediaries such as travel agent. And usually you need to do this with your segment. So align that with your target marketing, your segmentation, right? Because which customers you ask to do that is going to really depend on your business model. All right, so that concludes part 2. Next we'll deal with part 3, which going to look a lot about service quality.